What's the worst financial decision you've seen someone make? Story 1. Put everything in his gift's name to hide assets as he owed the IRS. The Jave sold his business, cashed out his accounts, and ran. Story 2. A guy in my fraternity got 30 for an undisclosed reason. I'm guessing a family death or something, and he bet it all on the Yankees winning one game. They lost. Story 3. A dude who owned a small convenience store in our town spent like $20,000 on fidget spinners. He was posting for like a year begging people to buy them as he would lose his business and his marriage was falling apart due to it. Story 4. Apply for a 5 cologne, didn't accept quick enough so applied for another 5 cologne. Both got accepted and ended up gambling it all. Story 5. My former sister-in-law had a thriving medical practice. She got so stressed that she joined the Scientologists and started taking their classes. She opened up 5-6 credit cards without telling my brother, maxed the cards out with hundreds of thousands in cash withdrawals, and gave it to that cult. Story 6. My brother's ex fell for a Craigslist scam. She found a motorcycle and the guy needed money up front to pay bills before she even saw it. We told her don't do it, it's a scam. She said she already sent $1,000. Of course he was never available to show her the bike, and we found out from my brother after they broke up she actually continued sending him money in hopes of getting the motorcycle. I think she was out $3,000 by the end. Story 7. My supervisor took out a loan against their 401 to pay their rent because their credit cards were maxed. 2 weeks later, they bought a brand new 60 Lincoln with basically nothing down because her daughter just had a baby and I need a bigger car for that. Story 8. My awful aunt was the trustee for my grandparents' estate. When they passed, she decided to sell their house to a random realtor who put a leaflet on the door. To the realtor, not with the realtor. It wasn't put on the market, and the aunt rejected a matching offer by me after I argued hard to actually list the house and have people bid on it. The realtor slapped a new coat of paint on it and sold it a couple of months later for literally $1 million more than she bought it for. Story 9. My cousin spent 100% of her inheritance and took out a line on her home to buy a second home in the mountains. Thing is, it was being pushed over by a mountain. And they thought they could fix it. I went and seen it, and every door jamb was crooked, and the doors wouldn't shut. They took me down into the basement, and they were trying to use I-beams to stop the mountain from pushing on the home. I was just like, what the hell are you doing? That won't solve anything. Fast forward 6 months, and they asked me for $50 to help, and I declined. Fast forward a year, and the home collapsed, and now they owe over $300 plus for a home that doesn't exist, and if they don't make the payments they lose their other house too because they used the original home as collateral and could not get insurance on the second home. Total money lost upwards of $700K. Friends, before we continue our video, I want to remind you of the importance of subscribing to our channel. We are also waiting for your comments and likes. Thank you. Let's move on to the video. Story 10. A friend of mine who was very bad with money and his girlfriend bought some sort of water filtration system from a door-to-door salesman. He has to pay something like $300 per month for this filtration system. He was all stoked because it came with a free set of pots and pans. Fast forward a year and his girlfriend has broken up with him, moved out of the house, and he's had to sell this home because he can't afford to live there. The water filtration system is now sitting in a storage unit where he still pays $300 per month for it because he's on a 2 or 3 year contract. Sorry, the details are fuzzy. We have great water quality in my area. Story 11. Ran up credit card debt requiring bankruptcy. Once they were able to build credit again, 7 years later, they proceeded to run up a massive amount of debt again, but couldn't go bankrupt again, so they used debt consolidation. The debt didn't come from sudden expenses. They just needed to buy things to feel better. Story 12. A coworker I used to have worked every second of overtime he could for several years to save up for a house. When he applied for the house loan, he based his mortgage payment on all of the overtime he had been working. I tried to tell him that wasn't a good idea, but he didn't want to hear it. He ended up divorced a few years later because his wife got tired of him always working. Story 13. A guy I dated for a short time had been joining an LM scheme selling insurances. I listened to his monologue and told him I had no money. He was furious and tried to sell insurance to our waiter at the restaurant. He failed again. I'm still laughing today. He was no good guy. Story 14. Worked with a 50-year-old guide who looked like the arse end of a rhino and hated anyone not from England, who sent £10,000 to his fiancée in Thailand, who he'd never met for a boot job, clothes, and flight over. Oddly enough, her naked pics and promises of when she visited stopped once the money had been sent. Story 15. Knew someone who answered those scam emails thinking they would get rich. Last I heard, he lost around $50,000, emptied out savings account and maxed out credit cards, left in debt and had to move back with ailing parents. Not close to them at all, but more like a friend of a friend of a friend's cousin. Motherfucker just listen, genuinely thought he was going to be a millionaire. They kept stringing him along until the bitter end, and then, poof. Biggest concern his friends had was him trying to milk his ailing parents for their last nickel and dime. Fortunately, he wised up and knew he'd been had. The last I heard of him was he had an hourly job somewhere and trying to get out of debt. This is a good note to end on. Please rate your stories in the comments. I'll be happy to add them to future videos. Also, you can rate our other videos. We would be very grateful. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.